points is like this evening.
Okay. Okay, if the call meeting to order, then welcome everybody to the monthly meeting of Mumbles Community Council on today, Tuesday, the 8th of April 2024. Yeah, we go into the first item on the agenda, which is apologies for absence. Any apologies for absence that we know of?
Harry Townsend-Jones.
Harry Townsend-Jones can be noted.
Yep, Councillor Hannah Hunter.
Hannah Hunter. Any others do we know of? Okay, so if we could note those two apologies, please. Any declarations of interest for the item on the agenda for this evening?
Yeah, I mean, it's grants, the grants to the art foundation day, and I occasionally dip with the lady who's running it.
Okay, you've mentioned this before.
Yes.
So,
Last time we did was last summer, but dipped we did.
yeah, dipped you did, so we know that. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is the public participation, where members of the public may make representations and answer questions and give evidence in meetings in respect of business on the agenda. We have two members of the public here this evening, who I know are interested in making a submission about the traffic wardens, which is item 9 on the agenda. So could I hand over to...
Yeah, hi, my name's Carl Thomas. I think I know quite a few of you. I know Mr. Scott there, we work together. Just to tell you a bit about where I am. I've lived in Mumbles all my life. I was a serving fire officer, been retired a few years. I was also second coxswain on the Mumbles lifeboat for a number of years. I've also been very heavily involved in the Mumbles Rugby Club, junior section and seniors, playing, I was about 5 stone ago. So I'm heavily involved. I lived in Thistleburn all my life in Langland, but about 8 years ago, I decided to move to the front in Mumbles, thinking, all right, parking will be a bit of a pain, but you're on the front, sea view. So I live in 712 Mumbles Road, which is next to the George. There's 4 terrace houses. I live in my own, the 3 either side are Airbnb, which it is what it is. I put up with the bad parking and all the issues that go on, and even accepted the fact that all this work that's going on needs to be done on the prom. It's been noisy, it's been dusty, parking's been horrific, how no one's been killed yet on the front of all the parking issues. But it's got to the point where it's become dangerous and intolerable. So last week, I spoke to Angela at the meeting we had in Victoria Hall with Knight Brown and also some elected members from the council and some council employees. I think they were highways and parking, about the proposed scheme for parking in Mumbles in general. And there's quite a lot of changes. I'm not going to go into whether they're right or wrong because I don't think it's the forum, but I disagreed with quite a bit of it. But the big issue is whatever changes that are put in place, it's an absolute waste of time unless it started to be policed. And when I say policed, traffic wardens coming down here more often into Mumbles. Where I live on the front is carnage. I get a residential parking badge, which I can park outside my house. I get to park there sometimes. Very often I've got to go and pay to park in Verdi's. It's carnage, it's intolerable. I put up with it because you do, but it's getting to the point where we're fed up. This is Jane. She lives a couple of doors away from me on the front. She's lived there for 58 years, her entire life. Her dad, Ted, when he was alive, was a local sailmaker, and she's constantly in contact. So we've done a petition. We've got 100 signatures. I did put it online initially, and that went a bit viral. We had about 400, but also people there were slagging off traffic wardens and all the rest of it. So I took it down because of all the abuse. And I thought, at the end of the day, you are elected members. I'd like to come and tell you how I feel, and a lot of our residents feel here on the front. And hopefully you can make representation for us to the council and get the situation changed. What I'd like to see happen is for there to be a permanent traffic warden presence in Mumbles, 7 days a week. Mumbles, the parking issues in Mumbles, I think, are quite unique to probably most other areas in Swansea. For the reason is, it's a nice day in the sun's out. Where do people go? They don't think, oh, I think I'll drive to Bonny Mine. They don't think of the Mumbles. And I don't mean that nastily, it's a fact. They come down here on the Joe's ice cream when they're sitting in Verdi's. It's all well and good though, they can't park. Especially with all the work that's going on and the car parks that are closed at the moment, especially the one opposite my house. I have been told it's going to be reopened by Friday, but I'll believe that when I see it. So when people can't park, but they've already driven down, they might come down from the valleys or Swansea, they just park anywhere. And that's normally to the detriment of the residents. I pay nearly £4,000 a year council tax. I can't park outside my house. Now, if I had a bit more money, I could live in a house where I can have a driveway, it wouldn't matter. But I'm reliant on basically street parking. So all these things that are going to come in to do with parking in Mumbles, and we know parking is a massive, massive issue with Mumbles going forward, and something that you guys have got to address and get a grip of. I really do believe that. I mean, whether it's we've talked about a dairy car park for years, or maybe a car park in the old quarry, and a little park and ride service to get the shops going and get the village bustling again, which I'd love to see. However, nothing seems to be done. It always seems to be talked about. The sad thing about it is, when I actually tried to find out from Swansea City Council how it all works, you've got to ask for freedom of information, which I've done. It comes through very sparse. The funny one I had was, when you park in the front, you've got a maximum of 2 hours if you park, and then you can't park again for 2 hours. That's for non-residents. However, there's no one policing that, so you can park there and just stay there all day. So when we asked the council, the only bit of information they gave us was in 2022, we asked how many tickets were given on the front parking in these hourly bays. Have a guess in 1 year, how many were issued?
None.
18. 18 in the entire year. So that only goes to show it's not being policed. So whether the community council has the authority to employ wardens to be down here to regulate it, or Swansea City Council will, I don't know. But if you could take that up on our behalf, if you need me to sort of get this rolling and get a lot more people on side, I will, because we've done this very quickly after the meeting in Victoria Hall. Then I'm prepared and willing to do it, because it's getting to the point where I'm even thinking about moving. That's how bad it's got for me. And I hope we can do something about it. I hope you're prepared to take up this mantle and fight and work for us and work with us, because it's just not for me. On the front, there's people in Myrtle Terrace, there's people that live behind, got all the cottages, all got residents parking, they can't even drive for their house. Promenade Terrace, Devon, Cornwall Place, it's, you know, it's an absolute nightmare. So anything you could do to get involved and help us would be appreciated. And I know these people want to see people ticketed and all the rest of it, but the reality is the only thing that works is people seeing those parking stickers on vehicles, stops and parking there, and that's the fact. So thank you, and any help you could give us would be much appreciated. Thanks.
Thanks for that, Carl. We've got it on the agenda. We'll discuss it when it comes up on the agenda. But you know, echoing what Carl says there, you know, I've known this community for well over 60 years now, and parking and traffic has always been an issue, and it's an ongoing issue as well. So I'll go back to the agenda now, but just, you know, Helen's message saying she's having trouble logging in.
I'll send her.
Okay. So, okay, so if we go to the minutes of the monthly meeting held on the 11th of March. Have you all got the meeting minutes in your pack?
Can I ask a question about that?
When it comes up on the
Okay,
agenda,
thanks.
okay? And we'll deal with that when it comes up on the agenda.
I've got just a very small thing to raise on the minutes there.
What's that?
Page 4, under point 13, I think it is. It's just very simply, litter pick on 21st of March was at West Cross Community Centre, not tiny little thing there. In
Yeah, and if you can note that and get the minutes amended accordingly.
Sorry, Phil?
it's the date's right. It's not like
It's community centre, yeah.
I wouldn't like us to be thought of as being a quarter of a mile away from where we were. Yeah.
Okay. Are there any other points in relation to the minutes? If not, can I move that we accept the minutes? Rob and Tess, okay, thank you. So we'll accept those minutes. So the next item on the agenda is Councillor David Lewis. Just to welcome the new councillor for West Cross, Councillor David Lewis. And as a way of introduction, I'd just like to ask you to introduce yourself, just a little bit of a background, who you are and
Right.
what you are.
Yeah, sure, yeah. So my name's David Lewis. I've lived in Mumbles for 20 years and I run a bed and breakfast on Lyman Road. So I've run a B&B for 14 years in the village. And again, all these issues like parking are exactly the same with me. Thankfully, there's a car park opposite the B&B now, which is a huge saviour because I understand your frustration. Mumbles has always been really good to me over the last 20 years. And I felt like it's time to give back and do something, positive for the community. Lots of my friends live in West Cross. So when an opportunity came up to represent West Cross, I thought, yeah, I would like to help out and make a difference, I suppose.
Well, thank you for that, and thank you, and welcome.
Thanks very much. Thanks.
Okay, so if we move on to now the chair's report, which is I thought we normally have the clerk's report, but on this agenda we have the chair's report. Are you happy for me to do the chair's report first? Okay. It's my report. As we look back over March, I think there are a number of developments and events that we as council can rightfully take pride in. One particular highlight has been the fact that MCC was selected to feature in a Welsh Government case study, highlighting the impactful work we do in our community to address poverty. This recognition is a testament to our ongoing commitment to supporting families and individuals through meaningful initiatives. And this initiative was supported with funding for Swansea City Council as part of their Tackling Poverty scheme. As part of this case study, One Voice Wales attended our Family Fun Days in order to produce a short video that documented the positive impact of our community programmes. During the visit, the One Voice Wales team recorded footage and conducted interviews with participants to showcase how our efforts are making a real difference to people. The selection of MCC for this case study reflects the importance of our grassroots efforts in tackling poverty and the vital role community-led initiatives play in attenuating the worst impact of the cost of living crisis. Additionally, we recently collaborated via our Story of Mumbles initiatives with Railway 200 Festival. This brought together various agencies, community groups and schools to commemorate one of our key local claims to fame as being the location of the first ever passenger fare-paying railway in the world in 1807. This event was a great success, and apparently there are plans in place to possibly make it an annual event. Another highly successful event that was held recently was the Gardener's Question Time in the Ostrom Centre. This successful event brought together local expertise and local interest in horticulture to provide an enjoyable and interesting evening. So congratulations to all those involved, particularly an environmental officer, Rob Hernando. Another development that we're seeing currently coming to fruition is the completion of our most recent evaluation exercise conducted by Mandy Williams. This is the latest iteration of the original evaluation exercise that was commissioned by Alan Thomas. For some of the newer councillors, you may not be aware what was covered by this exercise, but the report is contained in your meeting pack, and I would urge all councillors to read and digest the contents of the report. As an organisation, I think it is extremely valuable in our continued development that firstly, we open ourselves up to outside scrutiny via external evaluation, and secondly, we reflect on those issues that are highlighted through the evaluation process. We'll be considering the contents of this report in this evening's meeting, but I think councillors should reflect on the evaluation, and it should not be seen as a one-off event that when done is done, but rather an ongoing process where we all have an active role to play in addressing the issues raised. These evaluation processes can only be effective and worthwhile if people engage with them, so the production and consideration of this should not be seen as the completion of the exercise, but rather the beginning of the implementation phase. Okay, so that's my report. Unless there's any questions, can we move on to the clerk's report?
Thank you. So, can you mute? I'm echoing.
I will, as soon as I...
Thank you. That's better. So Martin's already covered on some of the topics I wanted to touch on with you this evening, and obviously I wanted to express my gratitude to Rob, Ash, and also Phil, because Phil has helped out in getting Jubilee Gardens completed by the deadline of the 27th of March. I don't know if any of you have been down there to have a look at the work that has actually taken place down there. It looks absolutely fantastic, and I think we as a council should be really proud of the work that they've pulled together as our team. On the back of this, for the successful lottery funding we obtained from that, we've actually been approached by One Voice Wales again, and I am presenting on Thursday evening on a webinar now about successful grant funding. So if any of you would actually like to come along and give me some moral support, I'm more than happy to send you the link so you can register and watch my presentation. Hopefully I'll speak a lot slower than I am now. Also as well, again, Martin touched on highlighting that we've done really well with best practice in the cost of living initiatives that we operate as a council. So again, just wanted to say, you know, that's really good work, and it's nice that we're getting the recognition that we deserve. And that was it from me for this month.
Yeah. That's been the evaluation of. So financial report for April 2025. Are you doing this, Kerry?
Yep. So in your agenda pack, you've got the report for up until March for the payments to be retrospectively approved, and the budget monitoring reports as well.
Awesome.
Oh, you did it then.
But that's not the end of it. It's more sensitive.
Something to do it either which way. I think it's the sender.
Look.
Who's it?
We can't hear you.
Okay, Kerry.
Over to you.
Okay, sorry, were there any questions on the report?
Go on with it.
Yeah, just the Jubilee Gardens in the financial report. There's quite a lot of money going out for that. Is it all grant funding, and did it stay on budget inside the amount that we achieved in the grant? And also just a secondary reminder on monthly interest that we're not really getting on the savings account. I know you're looking into it, but I'm going to remind everyone every month until we start getting some money out of it. Thank you.
Okay, so yes, there was obviously some match funding provided for Jubilee Gardens by ourselves, and we did stay in budget to deliver the project. There is actually a soft opening of Jubilee Gardens on Thursday, and then there will be an official opening on Monday the 28th of April. We're just waiting for Cranfair House to confirm their availability for that. With regards to the interest will, as you know, I am exploring options for this, and once I have more information available, a report will come back to council for you guys to make a decision on.
Okay, any other questions in relation to the financial report? If not, can I move to the recommendations? Unless you've got anything else to add, Jenny? No. So if we move to the recommendation, the payment made by the RFO in March 2025 are retrospectively approved. All those in favour? And that the budget report for the 28th of the 2nd, 2025 is approved. All those in favour? Thank you very much. Okay, so now we move on to point 9, which is the traffic warden. To discuss residents' petition to MCC to employ a traffic warden. Councillor O'Connor, you're down to talk on this?
Yeah, just to say thank you very much for coming, actually, both of you. And I realise that it is a big issue in Mumbles. I think we're all aware of that. And, I do sympathise if you can't park your car outside your house. It is absolutely so frustrating. I have spoke to the council. I spoke to Alison Willingdale before she went on holiday. She explained what you actually emailed me earlier, largely, which was discussed last time round. I think that the traffic wardens have to work in pairs. So if we were to fund it, that's 2 people as opposed to 1. However, I asked her if it would be possible if then the one they could give us and we fund the other one. And she said that that could be explored. I did ask the question in case it comes up, if Mumbles get to keep the money, if we fund the traffic warden, could Mumbles Community Council keep the money? Unfortunately, that's a no, which is a shame. And quite annoying that everybody would be in support of that if that was the case. And I know some people might obviously object to it because it's, you know, taxpayers' money being spent on it. But I would like to see if people would be up for the idea of seeing if it's possible for maybe a 6 month, even a 3 to 6 month through the summer, to see if that would be a workable option to try and see, because I get if nobody is enforcing it, then, and people know that, then they're not. Again, I spoke to Alison, she did say they are coming down 3 to 4 times a week, but that obviously is not every day. And so, you know, I understand that that's really frustrating. Alan at the council has got back to me about the permit situation, the amount of parking spaces on the new plan, which was what was going on in Victoria Hall the other week. He believes that there's adequate parking for residents, because there are more spaces now being added into the mix, where residents have preference of parking. But obviously I hear your point, you know, and you're all saying that that isn't the case because other people are parking there and they're not enforcing it. So that's the issue, whether there's more spaces now available and will be under the current plan. If they're not enforcing it, then other people can just park there. So I do hear you and I do sympathise, and yeah, I just want to see what council was to say about that as an option.
Okay, Will Thomas, Ian Scott, and then Pamela Asmus.
Thanks. Just to go over, I know this is obviously the motions about the traffic warden, but just to pick up on some of the other parking things that you mentioned with regards to the quarry car park, we as a group, so myself, Angela and Francesca represent Mumbles on Swansea Council as well as this council. So with regards to the quarry car park, we had the leader, to be fair to the leader of the council, Rob Stewart, he's very accommodating. He organised a meeting with all the senior officers, the relevant people, to look into whether the quarry car park was feasible to go ahead. And the feedback that he had and he gave us was unfortunately not, because I think it is possible, but it's just a huge amount of work, and there's no funding for no grant funding from Welsh Government for the likes of car parking and multi-stories, because they're trying to move towards buses and active travel routes. So there's two things, but we did follow that up. With regards to the dairy car park now, not to put alarm bells out there, but the council have, because they're looking to improve bus services in Wales, they have looked at, threatened with changing it into a bus terminus. And we've said, you know, as ward members, we said absolutely not unless you build a, you know, multi-story in the quarry. So we've represented on that. The new proposals which you've seen, obviously you fed in, and you know, your comments and others, we've taken forward. We've had a meeting with the officers, and I can chat to you maybe another time about the specifics around where you live. But we have fed those in, and I think you'd be happy with some of the improvements, because we did listen and pass those comments on. Traffic wardens, we do always ask for more enforcement. Mumbles, Langland, Caswell, you know, especially on a sunny summer's day, Caswell, really big problem. Langland, really big problem. Caswell, dangerous, because people are parking and the fire engine couldn't get through a few years back. Yeah. So that there is, you know, definite need for more parking. And you'd think they'd pay for themselves, so you'd think you'd have hundreds of them, but apparently not. So as Angela's brought this up, which is great, and she's going to progress this. As you know, though, I think we did look into this a number of years ago, and the initial conversations were yes, and then it went further up the tree towards the head of service, who said categorically no. So I think it's worth bringing up again. New head of service now, so you know, could be different. Obviously, MCC's got the money potentially to pay for something like that, but obviously it sounds quite expensive, so that would be, you know, a separate decision. We'd have to really see how much it costs, and then you'd have to bring it back to council. You know, further discussion in the future, I think. So that's everything I wanted to mention, really. But I'm sure Angela will take it forward, and we'll see.
To answer your one point, I'll possibly speak. I don't know.
No, that's a Jen.
Yeah. Can I just let the councillor speak?
Yes, certainly.
They come back to you. Ian Scott. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everyone. Firstly, can I say I was unaware that Mr. Carl Thomas was speaking this evening, but I'm happy to declare a personal interest. Mr. Thomas has spoken very well and highlighted the issues he and others are experiencing. As has been pointed out, this matter was looked into previously, and City and County of Swansea were approached regarding the problems, but it really didn't progress anywhere. With regard to the Quarry car park, the quarry was subject to a somewhat rather expensive survey, but it was determined that it was financially unviable for use as a multi-storey car park. And additionally, within the Quarry car park, it's a SSSI site of scientific special interest regarding certain flora and fauna on the cliff face there. So that's another little issue that councillors may well be interested in knowing. Progressing to wardens, it would be a considerable cost to Community Council. It would then be, we're then talking about additional salary costings. So that is something that I won't speculate on, but it would most certainly have to be looked into. And you know, wardens, well, with their enforcement, it's only as good as what they actually do. Similarly, you know, there's the matter with dog wardens. You know, when do you ever see one of those? So anyway, it's really enlightening to see members of the public attending a meeting and highlighting their concerns. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ian. Pam, and then Sarah, and then Trevor.
Two things, it might sound ridiculous. Why can't you take a photograph of the car outside your front door, send it to the council and have them fined? Well, they used to do it with dog fouling. If you actually photoed a dog, it was fouling, and sent it, and they named him shame.
Do you need to change the law? Yeah, you need to change the law.
Can't we name and shame and put him in the co-op or something? And the other thing is, talking about Langham and council being difficult to park, surely that means we need more buses.
Well, this sort of means,
Next plan. Sorry?
yeah, this sort of mean, it's got to be said, you know, this whole traffic parking issue, it's all interrelated, isn't it? In lots of ways. As I sort of said, you know, 60 odd years I know Mumbles, and 60 odd years we've had problems with traffic and parking here. You know, ever since they knocked all those houses down opposite the White Rose, the whole idea behind that was because of the congestion that it was causing. You know, I'm showing my age now, you know, because I'm sure a lot of people here can't even remember it. But you know, the congestion that we had before those houses were knocked down, or those shops, what have you. And as I sort of said, it is all interrelated, because the whole sort of thing, yeah, that probably helped with the congestion, but it just encouraged more cars to come to Mumbles. So, you know, anyway. Sarah.
Yeah, we have been through this before, and as Councillor Scott pointed out, we'd looked into it, and we paid quite an expensive, a lot of money for research to be done, and we found out that each parking place in this multi-store would cost a fortune. And the problem with getting parking wardens is that would cost us a lot, because we'd end up employing them. That's what they said last time, but Angela's willing to go through the whole rigmarole again and find out if anything's changed. But we did hit a brick wall quite hard last time. Thanks.
Okay, Trevor, and then Rebecca.
Yeah, I mean, I live in Devon Place, which is one of the worst areas, and I've noticed a difference in work practices over the last 6 months. Last year, the traffic wardens used to be like a policeman on the beat. They'd walk around all the streets. Suddenly now, they're driving around their electric cars, and they stop, and they see a car on a yellow line, they book it, but they are not looking into the bays, the residential bays, at all, because it's too much time to do it. So they drive around, see a car on the yellow line, book it, then drive off, and you don't see them again for 3 days. And of course, the problem around us is that they're Airbnbs, and they come in, they put 2 or 3 cars in the bay, and they're there for 3 weeks, you know. So I think seems to be, to me, a change in working practices, whereas they used to walk on the beat all around Mumbles, and you don't see that anymore. You just see them in their little cars, and they pop up once or twice a week.
Absolutely. We should ask about that. We'll ask.
I'm very good. Yeah, that's what. Sorry, Will. I should have said. Can you see if there is a difference?
Rebecca?
Yeah.
Go on.
And apologies for being late.
Sure.
Apologies that I didn't hear obviously what you said in my absence, but I have absolute sympathy for this, and I represent West Cross Ward, where we also get a lot of complaints around pavement parking, which prevents wheelchairs and buggies getting through, and I'd like to see more enforcement around that as well. Absolutely, the issue that you talked about there, Trevor, is one for city councillors to bring up, because I think that's that's a clear operational change would make such a massive difference, wouldn't it? The point I was just going to make is in terms of MCC's history in funding city, an enhanced city provision, is sometimes we've really struggled to be able to, should we say, contract manage, in the sense of receiving assurance that the hours we've paid for have been spent in our boundary and not, been dragged off to somewhere else because there's some incident that, I'm referring to environmental cleansing staff. But I just think there's some important lessons learned there. So Angela, if you're taking this forward, just to bear those in mind, and however we set this up, that we've got a way of saying what hours were spent in Mumbles that we've paid for, rather than it just going into a big pot and us not necessarily knowing what difference we've made.
Yeah, thank you, because I think when they did say to us that whilst they've got the most amount of parking wardens they've ever had, I think they said 36, equally the fact they did say they're only here 3 to 4 days a week does highlight that there are a few other days that they're not coming down as well. So I think, I'm willing to look into it, and then hopefully if we're able to do it, that we have the support here at council.
Richard?
Yeah, what was said about changing working practices, going from walking the beat, if you like, into cars. Don't get me started on that, please. However, enforcement. If there's no enforcement, punt us on regulations.
Yeah.
An example. My pet hate is the parking the zigzags. It's dangerous, and it's 3 points in license. Traffic wardens can't do that. That's got to be police, but that they drive past it because there's so many things on the plate. But yeah, there is more enforcement necessary, because the rules are just ignored by majority, maybe complying, but there's too many people just ignoring them.
Okay. Okay. Rob first. Let's have Rob first.
Thanks, Carl, for all right. Thanks for highlighting something I think you're probably all very aware of, because it's not just the Airbnbs and the residential houses. There's a massive problem with entitlement, where people park where they want anyway, and it really is a big problem, because it's congesting and making streets look more crowded than they actually should be as well. We're praying out for parking in Mumbles, there's no doubt about that. Whether or not the public would come with us if we did something like this, because people, they want to park where they want, or you're wasting money on a member of staff or something like that. That's something which we need looking into. I'd imagine a lot of the public would say, we don't want any more traffic wardens down here. I do occasionally see them, because I go for my daily coffee around by the Chinese and at the back of Newton Road. What's it, Castle Avenue or whatever? Castle Avenue, around there, and I see them in the centre of the village, but I don't see them down South End ever.
Angela made the point that 3 times a week is all.
Okay, I don't want to get into a dialogue here. This is your point. I'm sorry about this. So you made your point? Okay, Phil?
Again, best of luck, and if you need other people to they're happy to help. Again, just to echo, we could really do with more surveillance around the schools. That's an old chestnut to Coiner Road. and Southlands, West Cross Lane, Bearwood Road, obviously, you know, the roads around Newton, and of course, Newton Road itself, and surround the environs. For that 1.5 hours, you know, so during pick up and drop off, it is a bit, you know, still like, you know, Circus Maximus. So, yeah.
Okay, Chess and then Helen.
I'll be very, very quick. Thank you, Carl and Jane. It's great to have public participation and actually see what we're doing here. So, I'm not echoing what Will and Angela said. Obviously, we'll work together and help Angela in any way she can. But just in the meantime, because obviously this isn't going to be solved overnight for you. However, my experience with the enforcement team, when we've had a couple of isolated incidents in Mumbles where really bad parking, as Rebecca said, people are literally blocking the pavement, prams going on the main road. What we can do is highlight this to parking enforcement, and what they will do is like a hotspot check. So we can try to encourage them to go down. So far, I've had a lot of success with that. So I know it's not like securing it in the long term, but definitely coming into these summer months, if we can try and get them down there towards that end of, was it 712 Mumbles Road, we will. So that for the meantime, while Angela works on this, but also going back to Phil's point on the schools, that is what they prioritise or should prioritise at the moment. Because when we had a meeting last week with council officers, they did say they do try to prioritise the schools and surrounding streets during the summer, not summertime, the education term. So come summertime, they should be more far-reaching, shall we say. But we'll try and do it both ways for the short term and hopefully the long term. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Helen.
Thanks, Martin. Apologies for coming late. Oh, the echo. Is it? You turn the thing off?
There we go.
Thanks. Brilliant, thank you. And apologies for missing it. My computer is still updating after 40 minutes. So I'm not quite sure what's going on. So I'm on my work computer. And so I wasn't quite sure what the issue was, whether it was an issue of having enough spaces for tourists to come in, you know, for our businesses to have trade, or whether it's a frustration around just being a resident like we all are. I just feel funding a traffic warden would be expensive. And especially if we're not clear where the fines go, if that was in some way the costs could be offset, I think it'd be easier for me to sort of feel supportive towards it. But I feel it would be really difficult to fund a full time, given the really limited budget that we have and the very hard decisions we had to make a few months ago in terms of our budget to kind of find that money for a traffic warden. Especially when I'm unclear where the money goes. So somebody's getting the money from those fines, isn't it? Whether it's Swansea City Council, and having been stung by parking fines so many times, Rebecca knows I've had some real heartache around this, where Ivy covers a sign saying no parking, and then you're lobbed with a parking ticket, and then it escalates. And the process behind that is absolutely criminal and it's absolutely vile. It's so hard to get any comeback on any of it. It's all faceless. So around poverty and debt, I just, you know, there's a cautionary tale there about in terms of some of this parking stuff, it's absolutely out of hand. So I don't like all of that. But I would say also, I know everyone's going to laugh when I say this, and that is why it's important that we talk about walking places and cycling places. Obviously, that's not for everyone. I'm not very good on a bike, to be honest, but it's good for some people, and encouraging walking and cycling to get places like, you know, the walking bus to school and all of that. All of these things do add up in a positive way. So obviously, I want to make that environmental message a really strong one in the conversation. We can't hear you.
Okay. So as I said, I was going to sum up then, maybe then suspend standing orders for a brief period just to let people respond. But I think from the full discussion that we've had here, is, and the point that I was making, that historically, this is a perennial problem for Mumbles and the Mumbles area, the Mumbles Community Council area. And it's got a lot of different dimensions as well. And these dimensions change as well. The point that's been raised here about the increasing pressure that Airbnbs in the area are putting on us. Well, of course, we didn't have that 50, 60 years ago. And also the different issue then about the parking, say in the West Cross areas around the school, the congestions that have happened there can be very hazardous. And then the intense congestion that we have in the village, I'd say of bank holidays and around Langland and Caswell, Langland in particular, at certain times of the year. Saying that, it's a very complex problem, to solve, personally, I think. Yes, we can employ traffic wardens, but the point has already been made as a community council. The point that was being made there, if we're going to be employing, people were saying traffic wardens tend to come in twos. If we were to employ 2 traffic wardens, that would be a major drain on our resources. Basically, resources that we haven't got, and we'd have to find those resources somewhere. There's all these other different issues. Helen raised the point there. There's other approaches that we could use maybe in tackling congestion in the area, in using walking buses, better provision for cycling. For instance, I know I would cycle probably more around the Mumbles area myself if I felt safer, but because of the narrow roads and the traffic and the driving that we see, that puts me off using the bicycle around. So, saying, where do we go forward from here? I think Helen and Angela, has offered to take the torch forward on this. We hear you. We're all local residents ourselves. We suffer these issues ourselves, parking, congestion, just travelling back and forth to work, just getting into Mumbles or what have you. It can be at the nightmare. So what I'm saying, we hear you. We want to help as a community council, but we've got to think what it is that we can do. I think all that we can say at this junction in time, hopefully Angela can take this forward with the city council and see what can be done. But as I said, I think this has been raised a number of times. When it comes to employing traffic wardens, yes, we could be employing traffic wardens, but where is the resources coming to fund those traffic wardens? We'd have to look at that. And, for instance, if we were to employ 2 traffic wardens, the people of Mumbles are going to have to understand that the precept is going to go up a significant amount to fund those traffic wardens. So,
Can it be funded from the fines?
No, this is the point that was just being made. As I said, are we having to spend standing orders now? I don't want to get into a dialogue, right? But just to answer your point there, right? This is the point that was being made. It's been made quite clear to us that we couldn't get the fines coming to us as a community council. Okay. If it was, we'd be in a better position.
I'd like to just say I had some correspondence with Rob Stewart, and regarding the number of times that the enforcement officers attend now, it's 4 sessions a week. Yeah. Now those sessions could be a morning, they could be an afternoon, or they could be an evening. So in a week you've got potentially 21 sessions, and they're coming for 4 of those 21 sessions. Now, the week before last, on Mothering Sunday, people double parked all outside George. They double parked on the opposite side of the road, and the whole section of road from my house down past Carl's house to Birdie's was single track. Yeah. It was absolute gridlock. I contacted the police, contacted the local PCSO. Nothing at all.
Yeah, we did get yellow blinds put in very quickly as soon as we were realised.
They're not there still.
They're not there.
They don't going to be put in this week.
Yeah, but like all I'm sort of saying,
chase it up.
Another thing, you say about that.
Sorry to interrupt, could I just interject here?
Yeah.
So just to obviously remind everybody of the rules around public participation. When the public participate in our meetings, what cannot happen is a debate cannot be incited in between councillors and the public. The idea of public participation is so the public can make representations on issues that matter to them for us to then consider as a council. Another thing to highlight as well is that if this is going to be taken forward by somebody to be looked at, it can't be delegated to an individual councillor. It will need to go to a committee or delegated to the clerk to work in conjunction with Swansea City councillors. And also, we've got a tight agenda tonight, so we do need to be moving on to the next item if possible fairly soonish, please. Thank you.
Saying this, it's not as if we're unaware of it. As I said, we're local people ourselves. You know, we see the congestion in the area and in the surrounding areas as well. I think that all that we can do now is make a recommendation that we refer this to the Environmental Committee.
I was going to suggest, Chair, the Community and Social.
Community and Social, fair enough.
Can I make one more point? You did say about the lack of money.
As I said, we don't really want to get into this dialogue. I think that the point has been made. We're aware of it. As I sort of said, we've got a tight agenda. We've got other things on the agenda. We will pass it on to one of the committees and we will get back to you on an official basis like that.
If we set up a sort of a subcommittee, perhaps under the Community and Social, perhaps look at co-opting this.
Yeah.
You know.
We need a clear direction on where we're going next year, actually, because that's not so clear now. And also, like, you know, from a safety perspective, and there's not the turnover there for the businesses either.
Pass this on to one of our committees, and then we're more than happy to co-opt you on to work with that committee to work towards a solution.
That's great. Thank you. This is what actually I believe you.
Thank you very much. You are
separate parking place. So. Okay, council on the side. Do you know what? There's a council car parking park with a camera on top.
Yes.
They drive around and they automatically issue points for that.
Yes, but we need certain places that's keyed in and programmed.
So these if we go on to the next point, is number 10. The community.
Sorry, Chair. Standing orders.
Yeah, sorry.
So was the recommendation?
The recommendations. Okay. So if we move on to point 10 now, the community. Yeah. Francesca.
Thank you, Chair. Just bringing this.
Francesca, sorry, just 1 second. Can I just remind all councillors that when you're in that room and you're all more than one of you is speaking, we actually can't hear what is being said. It cuts all sound off altogether.
Okay. Right. Francesca.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. Just bring this to the table. Myself, Will and Angela had a meeting, and I believe Councillor Linda James is online. We had a meeting with Pennard, sort of community councils, like a subcommittee back in January. As you may know, that South Gower and Pennard have a community bus which is running very similar to Bishopston. However, this particular bus, which operates 2 days a week, is financially struggling. And they are looking to see if we could perhaps join in, link in some shape or form. This is something that all three of us tried to get off the ground probably about a year ago when we had to cut back on the buses. However, there was no driver available for the days that we wanted or at all of any of the days. So we thought, given that, which has led on quite nicely from the parking situation, and we're trying to encourage people to get on the bus more. It could be an opportunity for us to participate and join in and link in. At the moment, I don't know if anyone knows the route. So basically the bus comes along the South Gower Road on the A4118 into Pennard and then down over sort of West Cross, Klein Common, into the Mails, down Fairwood Road and then into Mumbles. So there is an opportunity there that we could come into all of the wards and link up. So it's really just to see if there is an appetite for exploring any further.
Yeah, so this is definitely something that I think we should aim to support wherever we can. I had conversations with a councillor in Pennard quite a long time ago now, I think when this was just sort of starting to kind of become an idea. And yeah, certainly anything we can do to improve public transport provision in the area is very welcome. I think, are they 2 weekdays?
Yes, they're two weekdays, and I'm sure Linda, who is online, may correct me. It's a Tuesday and a Thursday, off the top of my head. So I know we've looked at Bishopston one, so I don't want to get confused between the two. But what works well in Bishopston, I think we need to look at that model as well, because they are making it basically self-funding, so it's not actually costing them. So, you know, if you're of an age where you get a bus pass or entitled to a bus pass, you still get that free concession. Obviously, you can decide on sort of the rates and what have you, the route. So there's a huge scope there. And like I say, it's not just going to benefit Mumbles per se. There is that opportunity to include it from Mails, West Cross and Mumbles.
Just to finish the point I was going to make, the conversation I had, as I say, it was years ago, was about the timetable at the moment. Obviously means that young people are in school, so they're not benefiting from the provision. And the conversation we had was about how would we explore extending it to a Saturday, because that would make such a difference for young people to be able to come into the village, and also, you know, I'm thinking of like different sports clubs and all sorts where that route is actually kind of really well used, isn't it? Parties and all sorts. So at the time, I think there was issue around, you already mentioned like driver availability. But I guess would be my point, is if our kind of input could make that possible, I think it would be really welcome on a Saturday as well.
Okay, Sarah?
Yeah, you just said 2 days. I was hoping it would be a little more, because we always get phone calls, don't we? September, where you've got parents getting their kids to school. Bishopston, they're told they go to Bishopston, but there's no bus, or there's no room on the bus. I mean, it'd be amazing if we could hire it to take the overflow of kids from West Cross to Bishopston, even if they've got to pay for it. Well, they probably would have to pay, but at least they'd have the travel back and forth. Yeah, if that could be done, it'd be amazing.
Okay, Will and then Pam.
Thanks. Obviously, this brings people into Mumbles from Pennard, and Pennard and Ilston Community Council have currently organised it, and it brings people in to spend money in the shops in Mumbles. So there's a benefit for all the shops in Mumbles, but also people would be able to use it the other way. So I often like going for a walk down Three Cliffs, for example. So you could potentially take it the other way, go for a walk, or even walk back from that direction. So there would be a benefit. We would have to advertise it and, you know, tell people about it. I think when you say 2 days, that's all they can. Well, they can't afford that even now, but that's all they could afford. It's not to say that we couldn't increase it, but I think that's something we'd have to work with. The only thing I know is that obviously we'd want to send this to a subcommittee and have a thrash it out. I know that the time is of the essence with them because they haven't got too long left in their budget. It might be worth suspending standing orders very briefly to when this come in. I'm pretty sure, but Pennard have set aside 5,000 towards the running cost, and the day is, you've got the figures for the amount per day there.
£232.23 pence a day.
Yeah. So there's still a substantial.
Not including ticket income.
Not including ticket income, no. Okay. No.
That's what it's charged, and that's 3 runs per day.
Okay, can I just bring Pam in and then we'll ask Linda if she wants to contribute.
Well, if you're going to contribute, I think we need to have some say over what the route is. But going back to what we've been talking about, if the bus goes to Lyman Corner down into Caswell in summer months, That might really, really help, especially if it's on a Saturday and a Sunday. We could pay for that.
Well, I think at this point, we're just looking at the just general concept. Does Linda want to come in? Anybody know, Linda?
I think.
Hello. I'm sorry, I can't put
Sorry.
I'm not muted. I'm unmuted, but I can't get my camera to work this evening. I'm sorry. The bus is not being run by Pennard Community Council. It's a small committee, and it's also being supported by Ilston Community Council. But at the moment, we have a driver who only wants to work 30 hours a week or something of that ilk. She does not want to work full time. Therefore, she doesn't want to do weekends. So the option of finding another driver, well, we may be able to, but they're in very short supply, plus the fact that there is no spare buses either. So which makes it difficult. I've been working on the presumption that if we did link up at all, that it would be from Bracelet Bay up through Prunch Lane and down into Langland, and to do that run, and then back down Newton Road and back onto our normal route. But I can understand you wanting to go through West Cross and all the other routes. Have you got any questions? Helen?
Hi there, thanks. I think this is, a really interesting idea, and I think it needs to be unpicked by a group of people so we can understand, what your thoughts were, how it might link to what our thoughts are. So I think we're possibly not going to get through all of that in this session, but I definitely agree with Cheska, who brought this forward, that this is worth, in my view, taking forward and thinking more about.
But you've just got to remember that we're running out of time.
I think
we
that's
have got
fine.
to move, but we need to move quickly.
I think we could do that, relatively quickly. I'm not sure if the main room is hearing us or what, but I don't think we're not going to nail it now, are we? In a way that's going to give us all confidence that we're all making the right decision. But I don't see why we can't sort of organise something really quick to try and get this sorted out. That would be my view. Let's organise something that meets your timescales.
Yes, I agree.
Check. Okay. You asking into the question?
Yeah, just the budget you've already got confirmed from various sources.
Sorry, Will, I didn't catch that.
Can you just confirm the amount of money you've already got committed from other sources?
6,000.
And that's for the calendar year, or is that from a certain date to a certain date?
This is just this financial year.
Thank you.
It will probably run out by September.
Okay, so can we go back to Councillor Nantes? Okay, then based on the discussion that we've had, can we be in the same situation as we were with the last proposal, that we pass this on as a matter of urgency to a working group from community and social to look into this, to see how we can take this forward? Okay?
The only thing I'm worried about, if times are the essence with their budget, maybe that we say a certain amount of money that we think is adequate to take from reserves. Now, I'm not suggesting we do, but if it is that urgent, so maybe we need to ask Linda, how urgent is the funding?
Okay.
That's when it runs out.
And you also have to remember that any changes that you make take at least 3 months to be agreed by the Traffic Commission.
Okay, Kenny.
Yeah, I just wanted to say there's 6,000, Linda's just confirmed there's 6,000 based on the £232 per day, twice a week. That's 12 weeks worth of funding that is available there. Obviously what you don't want to do is commit money to this and then try to go through, as Linda just mentioned, you go through the changes to get the route changed and you potentially don't get permission. Another option is that the little community group that are actually running the bus maybe consider applying for grant funding through the council's grant funding scheme.
Angela and then Rebecca.
So if we wanted it up and running for July, yeah, if it takes 3 months to go forward, we need to sort of work on it now for the summer.
It's more the budget, bringing it back to council.
It's a time thing. Rebecca?
So 2 points, and there's nothing stopping us committing funding before any changes to a route have taken effect, because we obviously don't want the route to cease in the negotiation exchanges. And I think we don't have to do that tonight. We've got another month or two to bring something, you know, a figure back from that initial meeting of a working group. You know, this is the sort of ballpark our council willing to commit that funding. That was point one. Point two, Kerry's suggestion there of our small and medium grants pot has just made me think, has the community group approached the Swansea Council Hive, what's it called, matched funding offer, because that really bolster, you know, if it's match fund from us and them, and maybe some fundraising in the mix as well.
Linda,
have they?
I don't know which grant you're talking about.
Well, I think.
I'll look at, is it space time or something?
Yeah.
Well, I think that this needs to be taken forward as a matter of urgency. How are we going to take it forward? No.
Is it too late to play on the agenda?
You need 5 days, you can say
You'd have time.
Friday, Thursday.
You'd have time. You'd have time.
So we're just discussing the best way to do it, if you can hear us.
Yes, I can.
We could have a special meeting just to discuss that if you want. Okay.
We can't add it to next week's. Because
It hasn't been published yet, Rob.
Community socialist.
no, we've got a special meeting next week, haven't we? I wonder if it could be added.
Yeah, but that's, it doesn't need to that full council.
Yes, we can get out.
So we put it on there for that, okay? Okay?
Yeah.
So is that, we accept that as a way to take things forward? Okay.
So Ian Scott's gonna have to pick that up with Linda if he's chair.
Yeah.
He's happy to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy to send everything I got over. I just won't be here.
Yeah. Okay, so can we resolve that as a way to take this forward, okay?
Sorry, what was the resolution?
That we were going to put it on the agenda for the next community and social committee for them to explore how to take the funding forward.
Okay, we just didn't hear what you were saying. We just said, oh, there's a resolution. Thank you.
Okay, so we've accepted that, we'll take that forward, okay?
Thank you.
Right, so community Western bereavement support group to explore setting up a meeting group for those suffering to cope with bereavement. Rob Marshall.
Yeah, basically, as somebody who's down to one parent, and a lot of my other friends are also down to one parent. Grief is something which can affect you at any age and at any time as well. And there's no textbook on how to deal with that because we're all different and we all cope with it in different ways. And it can hit years after being, losing people. As I say, a number of my friends are going through this at the moment, and I just thought it'd be like we've done for the older people, and we do the coffee cake. A lot of people there, including my dad, are widowers. And in fact, some of my friends from school, parents as well, who were down to one parent. And I thought it might help those who are struggling with that if they had some sort of monthly meeting group they know they could turn up to. and just have a cup of coffee and a chat with people, share their experiences, how they're feeling, because the worst thing you can do is bottle these sort of feelings up. Compartmentalizing stuff like that doesn't make it go away, just makes it worse when it does come out. So I'd like to set up a group, and I'm quite happy to go to it and coordinate it all. But we could maybe, on a Saturday, I think, maybe use the pottery room if it's not being used, and just for an hour, try it out and see how it goes. And if people turn up, maybe nobody will turn up. But I think it's nice to offer it for people.
So what you're envisaging is just a group to be meeting on what, a monthly basis?
A monthly basis to try it out.
And are you looking for any budget?
Just coffee and maybe a cake or something like that. You know, nothing expensive. Hopefully, you know, as we own the building, we can, if it's free, we can have it for free. It's just better done in a private setting rather than a public cafe or something like that, because people could get upset.
Yeah, I mean, I lost my wife 18 months ago, you know, and like you say, it's an excellent idea. And everybody handles it in different ways. I mean, my son's struggled more than I have, and it's taken him 18 months to get onto bereavement counselling with the local authority, which is, you know, is a lot of the damage is done. So, yeah. So I think it's an excellent idea. The only thing I'm slightly concerned about is if you put a load of people who are bereaving in one room, do you need somebody with some expertise to guide them?
I understand that, Trevor.
Because you rely on a lot of people sobbing.
I don't know the answer to that.
No, I know.
I mean, if we were asking for any money, maybe for especially initial one, it would be for a counsellor, somebody who's used to counselling people coming to that meeting.
Give some guidance.
Just to give some guidance, support.
Okay, Rebecca, and then Pam.
Yeah, thanks for bringing this up. So at the first or second opening of the West Cross Pantry, somebody who came along suggested exactly the same thing, and she thought, she wanted to know whether we could use the pantry space for that. And I had the same thought about we would need quite you know, sensitive support to run it. I wouldn't feel that, you know, equipped to do that myself. So I think potentially you're contacting an organisation like Cruise to see whether they've got somebody who would be willing to support us with it. But I think, you know, there's definitely appetite for it amongst residents. As I say, that the suggestion that I received was to use Baywood Community Centre in West Cross, also very private, tons of parking, you know, loads of benefits that way. And if you literally just need tea and coffee, you might want to approach the local co-op, because sometimes they give that stuff for free to good causes. So
Good suggestion, Pam.
My point as well, we need somebody professional there to guide it through and to know where to send them, what to do, who to talk to. It's huge. Just having a coffee group, you don't know what's going to turn.
Yeah.
So we need professional help thinking, how do we get it?
Phil, and then Ian.
Yeah, just to echo, I think the sentiment is valid, and you know, it's a very positive idea to have a focal spot where people can perhaps go to find other routes to support. Bereavement training is available, so you know, realistically speaking, if you got in touch with the relevant organisation, be it Cruise or, you know, through CVS or, you know, another provider, then, you know, that's something that, you know, could add an arrow to your quiver, as it were, in terms of, you know, that skill set. But then a lot of people, you know, find bereavement hits them very uniquely. And the other thing with a bereavement group per se is that it can be a very transient and very, you know, someone might come for 6 weeks, you might not see them for 6 months or a year or what have you. I would suggest perhaps having a chat with some of the local religious groups, seeing whether they would like a central place where they could also perhaps direct people to, or bring people to, or perhaps link in with. So perhaps they might have people within them that could offer support. And I would perhaps suggest, going to some of the charitable organisations such as Bruce Macmillan, even Bernardo's, put together a very good booklet about 15 odd years ago about how to help children go through the process of understanding death and what that means to different people at different ages and how that affects. So yeah, I lots of homework to do there, but I think the basic of having that place to go, the people to speak to, and knowing that that's going to be there for as long as they need it, is a really good one.
Okay, Ian Scott.
Thank you, Chair. This is an interesting one. I do believe this should be looked into. Perhaps it could be absorbed into the hub facility we provide. My query would be, how are you going to target and whom are you going to target by way of group, ages? Phil has mentioned, approaching the religious sector. Well, of course, there are a number of those, so one would have to be very careful how you play that. I think it should be looked at, but there's quite a bit of looking into, I think. Thank you.
Okay, good. I'll bring in all the others and then you can respond, okay?
Yeah, just to say it's a very lovely idea, and I think grief happens at any time. Laura and I've got a friend who sadly lost 2 members of her family in less than a week, and how you deal with that, it's awful, devastating. I think you've got to have the right support, and not everyone has got all that support in place to help them through it. But it's not something that you could do once every 6 weeks necessarily, because when is it going to happen? So, but if there's shared facilities, so between all and all the churches, but there is then the money to spend on somebody 1 hour every week, that would be good. And of course that's costly, but I think your idea is really lovely that you're able to give up that time. And yeah, but maybe just needs to look into have some expert there to give some proper advice as well.
Okay then, Sarah, Will, and then Chef.
So I had 2 years training counselling and I did some bereavement, just touched on it, but honestly, you really need to be careful in group bereavement. You've got to have someone who knows what they're doing. Some people get very angry. It's not just the tears, it's anger, rage. Somebody's got to control that group and know that when they walk out the door, they're safe, they're okay in themselves. You've got to bring them back to being, because you take the mask off, you start crying, you start being emotional, and then they leave. You don't want someone walking into the road or
What's a wasp?
You need
subject to case. You need a professional, someone who knows what they're doing. That was
right, say like it's a bereavement friendship.
Okay, we'll have this discussion as we go on, right? I've lost track of where I am. Who was it? You?
Are you all right?
Yeah.
Do you need to get over your fear?
He speaks so well of you.
Looks like a hornet to me.
Okay, down everybody. Robert Khan, go out. Well,
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I think it's a really nice idea, Rob, and I think it shows that, your personality and, where you want to obviously help people that have been through similar situation to you. I think the points have been raised, though, the reason...
Going through it well,
Sorry, going through. I think that the points that have been raised of my concerns are professionalism and professional services. I mean, Trevor, as you said, 18 months is way too long, but I suppose the reason it took 18 months is because there's not the adequate trained staff to deal with it, right? So that would be my concern. And obviously, what is a community council's function? What are we here for? We haven't got any statutory obligations, and if you were to stop this, would if you came off the council, for example, would people expect this as a service from MCC? And I personally don't think that this is what MCC should be. As councillor led, fine, we as councillors we should have little projects like this that if we want to do, but MCC running bereavement counselling is not something that I think we should be doing long term.
Okay, can I have Chess, please?
Yeah, lovely idea. I think it's really great. And I do probably echo a little bit of what Will is saying, because are we setting ourselves up for branching into sort of NHS mental health? However, not only should we always think of those who come to us for help, actually sometimes the volunteers who put themselves out there, you're the ones sometimes that actually need the counselling, because often you're put into circumstances, situations that you're taking on other people's issues. So not only do I think it's wise that we have somebody of an expertise to help those who come to you, but also the volunteers. So thank you.
Okay, I think to sum up, I think just generally the feeling in the room, I think most of us, all of us, are of the opinion it's a great idea. We want to support this, but at the same time, I think I can see this as valid concerns as well. Is we probably at the very least need some advice and some support of, if we are going to do this, how to go about it. And also, what are the responsibilities? I think Trevor made a very good point there in relation to the provision of services in this area, are pitiful, to be honest. So I would suggest again that if we are going to take this idea forward, that we need to look at a feasibility study, look at what help is available out there, what support is available out there, and also what guidance is there from other groups. Like, people said about Crews. I know that there's an event coming up in Underhill for people experiencing bereavement of a child recently. So there's a number of organisations out there. So I think at the very least, we need to look at doing a feasibility study of if we are going to go ahead with this and what sort of resources.
So I can come back.
Yeah.
No, I think there's no point anybody's raised that I don't agree with. What I would say is I would probably at first keep the church out of it, because a lot of people, not a lot of people, but some people who have lost loved ones have also lost their faith in churches. So I would try and keep it secular rather than religious in that way. I think my idea for this was more based around, I suppose, not that I've been to one, an AA meeting, an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, where people get in a room and can talk about their problems around the ring. Sarah made a very good point, actually. You want people leaving knowing that they're going to come back and obviously feeling that they've been helped, not feeling worse than when they come in.
Yeah.
And, if there's an outpouring of multi-grief, that could be a bad thing. But what I'd like to do, if you're is to explore some of this on behalf of the council, so I can report back maybe in a month or two.
That's what I was going to suggest, that you go and explore it and maybe work with the community and social committee and look at some sort of feasibility as something you can bring back to the council for that. Okay.
Sorry, Chair. Kerry's mentioned that she's got contacts from the support cafe, which could help you, and the subcommittee.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry, in the exploring, could you also explore the option of us not delivering solicitation?
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
Just,
I think that we just need to provide a room to kind of do it for us.
I wouldn't be surprised if we approach like Crews or something like that. There will be something. Kelly, did you want to come in, or is this the point that you were going to make?
Yeah, no, sorry. I just wanted to also come in and say that if you do know of anybody who's suffering, or if you are suffering yourself, every Friday in Swansea City Football Stadium, there is the Jack Lewis Foundation, who offer support for mental health and overall well-being, and they are drop-in sessions, so you don't need to book. You can just go down there, and that's completely completely free if there is somebody you know in the community that needs that support now while that is being researched into. So I just wanted to let you know there is something weekly every week in Swansea.
So you're happy with?
Yeah.
So next item is the Austrian Centre rent. To discuss and agree, send a letter to the Swansea and Brecon Diocesan Trust concerned the Austrian Centre rental rates and break clause. As well.
No, just that's what it says. I think we discussed this all in detail, and Trevor brought it up and told us what should have been, how we should have had the lease. And we just, at this point, want to write a very brief letter to open up a discussion around, hoping to get them to have a discussion on it, in which Trevor, the clerk, and maybe the Austrian working group as well, could meet them.
It seems eminently sensible. Any questions on this? If not, I think we're all happy to pursue on this. I think it's something we've got to do. Okay, that's great. So, report from the Chair of Culture, Tourism and Communication Committee.
Do we do the recommendations at this point?
No.
Later,
yeah.
Okay, so mainly it's Mumbles May Madness event, which happens from the 1st of May to the 10th of May. That was to coincide with Small Business Week. I think we've got the 10 businesses now. Claire's just in the process of getting all the logos back and getting the artwork off so that the social posts can all go out to advertise that. We've got some, quite good companies that have come forward with some good deals, like Lara Johnson Hair have, even though no service there is £10 or less, they've come up with a little goodie bag package with some minis for £10. So I like the fact that some of them are being really creative, and there are some good deals also to be had in that week. Mumbles Fest is continuing to make progress with that. Again, if anyone can help with Mumbles Fest or with the VE questions, please contact Claire to offer your availability.
What is the date is Mumbles Fest, please?
7th of June.
Okay. Report from the Chair of Community and Social Development Committee.
Thank you, Chair. I'm very happy to inform you that the gym equipment has been installed at West Cross Front Promenade, and I'd also like to acknowledge the contribution that the City and County of Swansea has offered towards it by way of the installation. So at long last, it's been ticked and we move on. Thank you.
Yeah, just say thank you to Swansea City.
Yeah. And I walked in along the prom this evening. I look at the benches between Ripples and especially around where the ice cream is there. They've gone. There's been bench after bench. So can we put some more benches in there? Because they're well spaced out. So people can just sit there and have an ice cream safely and look up. And also, I asked for 2 benches to be put outside the fairy shop for best people.
Oh, yeah.
Waiting. Have we got any spare benches, and can we put 2 benches there outside?
There are a couple in the churchyard of All Saints that they've been, there are, what about the Garden of Remembrance in All Saints?
Any spare?
It's been taken. So some have been put there, and there's one outside the main door of the church as well on the concrete bed.
I think we need them for the prom where they used to be. For the best people who just, when I was on crutches, they needed it. Outside the furniture, we got 2 benches there, maybe.
Okay, Chester, I know they've been involved in the benches.
I think, as you know, we've been talking about the benches for ages. Francesca, well, I think Rebecca did a lot of work on it years ago, and then Francesca's done a load of work on it recently, repurposed a lot of them, and they were going to be scrapped, but a lot of them are being reused around the county, so, which is very good. The ones that are on the seafront now are all matching, all the same. So I'll pick up with Dave if there's more going in, but I don't think so. With regards to the fairy shop, that area's due to be, yes, nice word, thanks Phil, enhanced within the next sort of 6-8 months. And
Mr. Summer again, haven't you?
you're talking about major council works, on bench, I'm talking about like new bus stops.
In the meantime, for the summer, we can.
Okay. Terry, did they want to come in?
6 months ago.
It's okay. I was thinking of the picnic benches as opposed to the seat benches, so that's fine, don't worry.
She was going to
What about the picnic benches?
Picnic benches have been previously mentioned in Environmental Committee. I'm linking in with the officer in Swansea and I will have an update for you very soon.
Okay. Can we go on then to the report from the Chair of the Environmental Committee? There is an...
As Vice Chair, I'll fill in for Carrie. I'll just refer you back to the EO's report. And again, echo what's been said by Chair and Clerk. Rob's been working really very hard to get the Jubilee Gardens, as has Ash. It's looking miles better, and I encourage everybody to go down either soft or the formal opening to have a little look around. I'm sure that the space that was once called the Councillor's Rest, colloquially by former councillors, will once be again a visiting haven for peace and quiet if you can put up with the traffic noise. Beyond that, Helen, I understand, has got the litter picks in Males this weekend. And we had a very successful one in West Cross recently. So, yeah, and the rest of the Environmental Committee work is ongoing.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Any questions? If not, can we move on swiftly to the report of the Chair of Finance and Compliance Committee?
Yeah, last meeting we revisited some grant applications we were waiting more information on. And all that will be in the recommendation. It was suggested to be in fairness to all applicants that we gave half to everybody, but the majority said no, each grant application has to be considered on its own merit. So all the recommendations.
I thought we decided to give everybody half. We cut everything in half.
No.
That's all right.
No, we didn't.
Okay.
And one of them, I'm sure myself and Pam will speak about.
Yeah. Because we decided on half for that one. Definitely decided on half for that one.
We did, and to bump it up. Well, we'll come to it in a minute.
Okay. So, unless there's any particular questions on that, can we move on to the recommendations for the committee? So, Finance and Compliance Committee meeting recommendations. St John's Ambulance Gower Division grant application is there, but the recommendation is the grant of 2,500 be made to St John's Ambulance Gower Division to contribute towards the purchase of vital equipment for volunteers and includes expenditure for training.
You said 2,500, not 4,000.
No, 2,500.
We had a presentation, I forgot to say, sorry, from St John's Ambulance.
So have you got something to say, Pam? Or?
Just the 3/4 for now. Sorry, I should have checked it myself.
What's the percentage of that we're putting in and what they're putting in?
It's about half. I mean, the man from the ambulance came down and gave us a presentation on the sort of equipment they need and how long it lasts and stuff like that. So we're roughly putting in half.
Okay, and this is largely used to train people within our
Yes,
audits.
we went through all that. Okay. Okay, if there are any other questions, can I vote? Do we accept this recommendation?
Yeah.
Those in favour, great. Sunshine Lotus yoga grant application for £5,000 to support yoga within the community through Yoga for Health. Recommended that the grant for £2,500 be made to Sunshine Lotus Yoga Group to support yoga within the community through Yoga for Health. And sorry.
Yeah, I was
no question.
Yeah, go on. Yeah, so this has come up. This must be the fourth time. I appreciate your positive vibes you were giving off there as if we were going to just cruise over it. But what has changed as opposed to the last time this came up?
Well, this now fully meets the Financial and Compliance Committee's criteria for the application. It's been gone through the Sunshine Lotus have provided all the documentation. Obviously, the initial ask was for 5,000. The recommendation of the committee was for 2.5. The actual the Sunshine Lotus Yoga and Yoga for Health, it's very specific project targeting the harder to reach, as it were, and introducing them to yoga in a community setting. The lady involved has been highly recommended by other people who would not have thought of using yoga previously to address their physical and mental health conditions. And I believe that when this application was previously refused, we didn't have these criteria in place, and this is why this lady has come back and reapplied and met the criteria that the council has set out.
In fact, I think we asked her for more information, wasn't it? Yeah.
So
it's not a reapply so much, it's just we were waiting on documentation.
So a couple of follow-up questions, if I may. So is this in only people in the ward?
No, it'd be open to anybody.
So anyone outside, anyone within the MCC boundary, I mean?
Within the MCC boundary,
So just the MCC boundary, and and that's going to be policed by her?
So it's not by me, but that's what we're paying for.
So my worry is as I talked about before, there's obviously groups that are harder to reach, and there's some fitness things which we might want to look at pursuing. Yoga, if we start paying for people's yoga, are we going to start paying for people's Pilates? I understand this is a hard to reach group, and that is the specific thing here. But again, come back to what is the point of MCC, and is this mission creep? And are we going to be paying for people's yoga, Pilates, spin bikes next? Hard to reach people, spin bike studios, being serious. So for me, although I appreciate it's a really good and worthwhile thing to reach out yoga to people that don't do it, personally, I don't think it's something MCC should be paying for.
Yeah, we have already paid for other exercise groups.
Yeah, I did say that in my comments just then, yeah.
Yeah, this one is actually pretty good, and it fits in well with our outreach for people who are poorer and more vulnerable. So I think it links in well with that. We've heard a lot of positive stuff. Actually, it was brought to us by Amy, that coordinator, as this woman does good work and works with Earth, encouraging people out of their homes and being more active. So I think it's quite a positive thing for us to actually invest in. And it's not at all like the usual exercise groups where, these people are not going to skip off and do yoga on the beach.
It's, I think it's chair yoga.
Okay, Rob, and then I'm sorry.
Will you ask the question, what is the point of MCC? And the way I see it, and you may disagree, is to improve and make the lives of our residents better. Now, if that means that we're targeting a group of people with mobility issues, and maybe people who have to do it in the chair or whatever because of that, then fine. Just like I thought it was fine for the Galbools and movers who were helping people with, elderly people. A part of the community I think is very much neglected because they don't play sports, they don't play tennis, they don't skateboard. I think there's a lot of elderly people around here. It was mentioned about biking earlier and stuff like that. It's a big hill to get up to Newton. And my dad's 89, he's not going to walk up and down. The buses are rubbish. So his option is to drive, really, or be driven.
Okay.
So I think for that reason, we're helping a part of our community which needs that help. And so I think that is our reason for existing as a council.
Okay,
I don't dispute that it is a nice thing to offer, but I'm just checking this is the same company that do the retreats to Malaga and Bali and Indonesia, and it's online. It says that they're a yoga retreat. I have upcoming events in Spain and Malaga, and obviously they're going to cost people thousands of pounds. And you know, if she's making a lot of money through her business doing that, then I don't see why we have to fund local yoga sessions. So that was my only question, because that's what happens when we put it into.
We're not sending people to
I'll make sure they do it properly.
Swansea Council Age and Well Initiative, where there's lots of like sport for older. There's an Age and Well Initiative, isn't there? Definitely. There's lots of sports going on there, and the LC2 and all of that.
If they can get there.
Yeah, you know, I'll sum this up because I don't want to spend enough of time. Time is getting on. We've got other things to discuss as well. To answer Will's sort of question there is what is Mumbles Community Council for? You made the point earlier on, we haven't got any statutory responsibilities per se, right? So in some ways, that's a good thing, if you ask me, because it gives us a bit of freedom to do things which other local authorities or government agencies or whatever can't do, and gives us a bit of flexibility. The whole sort of ethos that we try to do a lot of the time is to adhere to the aims and objectives of the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act. And I can't think of anything really which would hit on the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act as something like this, really. You know, I can see the point, you know, yeah, yoga, Pilates, whatever it is going to be next, but it's the way that it's provided, I think. And, you know, this particular application has gone through. I think we've given it due scrutiny. As you sort of said, I don't think there's any sort of suggestion that we're not sending anybody to Morocco or anybody anything like that.
No, I think my point was just that it was companies that are obviously doing, you know, the big.
But you know, even if that company is doing something specifically in the community, it's helping people in our community, I think we can make that argument. So that's the point I was going to make then. So we've had that discussion, and are we happy to put it to the vote now? The recommendation is all those in favour of the recommendation. Okay, all those against? Okay, that recommendation is passed. Abstentions? Okay. No abstentions. Okay, so then if we go on to the Mumbles Bowls Club grant application. This is for £800 to contribute towards maintenance of playing surfaces of Mumbles Bowling Green. Recommended that a grant of £800 be made to Mumbles Bowls Club to contribute towards the maintenance of the playing surface of Mumbles Bowling. Any questions, Pam?
The last statement we had of them is in the end of February. They had over £10,000 in their bank account. Don't we have a rule that says if you've got 10 grand or more, you can't apply for grant?
So,
Harry, have we got a rule like this? Yeah.
But I thought some of that, if that money had been earmarked for something already earmarked.
We had this discussion previously. That's what I've just done. I just wanted to clarify. Because Carrie says that we have got this, but I thought that we had broached this discussion previously in consideration of this application. This has been brought up previously, hasn't it?
Yeah. Can you hear us?
Can you hear us? Yeah. No.
Sorry, I was eating a cough sweet, so that's why I didn't speak, and then I'm just getting the policy up for you now, so bear with me. So it says our rule is they should have less than 12 months running costed and restricted reserves. So we have been back and forth on this grant application, because if you remember, it came in as one large application for the club to divvy up between the 3 clubs, and we asked for it to come in separate applications. We've already approved 2 of the grant funding applications for the other 2 clubs. This is the 3rd club. Obviously the conditions of the finances of the other two clubs weren't so affluent as the bowling club. But again, the policy does state that there needs to be less than 12 months running reserves in unrestricted funds, and obviously that's been through committee as well.
That doesn't answer the question.
Yeah, but what I'm sort of saying, I thought that the discussion that we had, correct me if I'm wrong, I thought that the discussion that we had was this money that they had wasn't unrestricted.
Yeah, so they've confirmed that they haven't got any restricted funds in their bank account. The point I'm trying to make is this has been scrutinised by Finance Committee. Finance Committee have had their funding application, know how much it costs them to run each year, which I believe was roughly around £4,000. So they have, in regards of our policy, got more than 12 months worth of unrestricted funds available to them. So the committee decided that this needed to come to council for a decision.
So that's
Yeah.
So it's not a, so if we can override that and we can make the award.
No, it was
No, it's
part of
the
the full council to decide on whether we award it or not.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Because they have enough, they've got enough funds.
But it's up to us to decide whether we award this grant. Is that what you're saying, Kerry?
Well, the recommendations from committee that council consider this, council have the overriding authority on what is approved from the committee recommendations.
So, any other questions on
I've
this?
got another point to make, if I may.
Fine.
They only charge £40 a year for joining the club. I worked out if they do 20 weeks at 40 sessions, if they just did the 5 months. Sessions are costing them £1 an afternoon, which I think is unreasonable. If they went for just 60%, it'd be £1.33 a session. So what I'm saying is, I think they are undercharging and asking us to subsidise them for the undercharging. There's no other club I know of that charges £1 for people to play bowls or play whatever they're doing. So I don't think they're charging their own people enough money, and they should be looking financially to support themselves a little bit more as well. And if we cut everybody else's grant in half, I think we should cut this grant in half as well, which would give them £400, not £800. In fairness to everybody else.
I think,
I finished.
Chair, that's the reason it's gone in for the £800 is because we're treating all three clubs equitably.
The same, exactly. That was the point, really.
I take on board what Pam says about them undercharging, but at the same time, I'm quite glad they're charging cheaper for people, especially the older people on pensioners maybe who don't, or maybe relying on their old age pension.
Okay. Francesca?
Yeah, no, I take Pam's point on board, but equally, I don't feel we're in a position to tell them how much to charge memberships. And I think if we just go back to last month when, we put forward that grant now to upgrade the Mumbles Bowls Green, I think, we want that green in good condition. So I don't want it being taken over and it's in poor condition. And equally, once, hopefully, if we get the caps confirmed sometime next year, we will be in a position where we can actually look at the membership and see and make it sort of payable. I just don't think now is the right time to be doing that.
Yeah. Okay, I've got any other points anybody wishes to make? If not, I think we should just put it to the vote, really.
Are we going 50% or 100%?
Well, it's down as
the recommendation is a grant for £800. That's what we're going to be voting.
Ask for an amendment where we treat these as second, so we give them 50% of what they've asked.
You can ask for the amendment. We're going to have to vote on the amendment.
They're still paying for more than this.Ey're only getting a grant of that. They pay towards the maintenance as well.
Yeah,
I know, but every other grant we
okay. Look, I'm very keen to move on.
Everybody else has only been given 50%. Let's treat them equally.
Asking half of what.
Okay, that is 50%. Look, I'm very keen to move on this because we've been running around the houses on this. So I will put it to the committee that we put this amendment in, Pam's amendment, for £400. So all those in favour of the amendment for £400. Okay. So 4. All those against? Okay, so I will then put it to the council, the recommendation that the grant of £800 be made to Mumbles Bowls Club to contribute towards the maintenance of the playing surface of Mumbles Bowling Green. All those in favour? All those against? Abstentions? Okay, I think that's passed as well. That did pass. Okay, thank you. So if we go on to cardiac risk in the young grant application for £5,000 to contribute towards the screening of 100 young persons between ages of 14 and 35 in relation to heart-related issues.
This is the one where I've got personal. Okay, thank you.
Right.
Would I have to declare one as well because I've pledged money?
I don't think so, not as a councillor. You don't know or anything.
No, I don't know it.
Okay. We'll just note that anyway, but recommended that a grant of £2,500 be made to cardiac risk to contribute towards the screening of 100 young persons aged between 14 and 35 in relation to identifying heart-related issues. Any questions? Pam?
We've been putting in 1,500, Ross putting in 200. Yeah. So all out of the total amount, we are
£800 short.
Short.
So the reason I put in £200 is because I think this is a really important thing that we support, and I'm hoping that by pledging £200 out of my council allowance, other people will follow suit, and we can make it up to the 3,000 total that they're asking for.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Yeah, go on.
It's probably obvious, but just to, it is the screening of the people in this ward.
In this ward, yeah.
Members Community Council will put out the offer of the places themselves. It won't go via them. They can go via MCC to invite people in the area to attend.
Okay, then, Rebecca?
Yeah, I'm just wondering kind of what proportion of the young people in Mumbles this covers, and it seems to me to be something that we would definitely want to support, and I'm assuming that the more money there is, the more people they can screen.
They've got 100 places in the day, she fills them up and there's got to be surgery.
And they've done it before, haven't they?
Yes.
So obviously once you've been screened, you don't need screening again.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess, does anybody have any sense of the scale of this?
Dylan Sarner, go on.
Well, in terms of stats, can I go first?
Okay, you do.
Yeah, I had a quick look at the demographics for the wards for Mumbles, West Cross and males. I think I worked out that for 14 to 16-year-olds, we have approximately 130 qualifying youngsters within that sort of bracket. And then effectively on a yearly basis, and I know this is just for a one-off, but on a yearly basis, if MCC were to actually sponsor 130 odd spaces over a period of however many years, effectively every single young person in our ward areas could benefit from this screening. You know, be whether or not they actually participate in team sport or individual sport or any sport, they, you know, effectively we would be providing enough places for them if we were looking at about 130 places each year.
So then you're looking at about 6,500 to 7,000 a year.
Okay.
Based on these figures.
Yeah, I'm just saying this could be enormous for us as a community council to offer this service, and it could save a number of lives. It would give a lot of people peace of mind. I think people would actually approve that some of their council tax was going towards this. And in the beginning, when they were discussing it just for the football teams, I thought that could come back and bite us because it's just too, you know, yeah, it's too insane. So I think it's expensive, but it's a really good thing for us.
Kelly, did you want to just say something? Will? Okay, Will?
Yeah, it's a shame how much the NHS charge for this, because it is something that yeah. So I don't know if it's something we could write to Welsh Government on as a community council, because, you know, there's other areas which obviously can't afford to do it or haven't got community councils that don't want to do it, or maybe they don't see it as the council's function, like we've talked about already tonight. But yeah, it's really, if we could write as a community council to Welsh Government to try and keep costs down so this is more effect, we can screen more people in Wales. I think that'd be good. So if everyone's in agreement with that as a little amendment.
Yeah.
Not to spend money this year.
No, as an amendment.
Just because it costs so much money. It's only like, I believe it's one member of staff with one machine sitting there.
It's a whole team.
This is what this is for different rooms. It's the first set of machines do one set of analysing, and if you report by that, you go on to a different machine which has got a different set of analysing. And if you report on that, you see the consultant that is sitting there. And the story is in two brothers last year. One was passed and the other you sent straight to Morriston. He went straight in Morriston.
Okay.
And may I have another amendment as well?
Yeah, go on.
As well as we were hoping that other people would say, yes, I'll give some money out of my money, but nobody has.
I'm about to.
Oh, they go then.
I'm happy to match the pledge of £200 for my council.
Yeah. Quite happy to put some money. I said this before, to be honest, anyway.
So that's 600, we're still £200 short.
Likewise.
Yes. But my amendment was going to be, can we bring it up to the 5,000? Thank you so much.
Okay.
But I was just going to say, we do Mumbles Fest. Why don't we try and get people to give money there as well?
Yeah,
Are we allowed to do that, Kerry? Could we do collect money?
Well, that's
pledge money.
There's something in the future. I think let's get this over the line, as it were. I think Will's point is very valid as well, and I think we should use this as a way of raising the profile of this issue and taking it to the Welsh Government and using Mumbles Community Council as a flagship of the approach that could be developed. So saying that, can I put that now to the vote that we accept this, all those in favour of this recommendation that we've talked about? Okay, that's it. So then the next one is the honour of Mumbles. £250 is sufficient to get the award. The honour of Mumbles. Will, are you talking to this?
Yeah, I think it's also the criteria that we were going to just run over quickly tonight as well. Okay, so just a nod to Helen Mitchell, councillor, who used to do a lot of work on this. Used to organise when we first started, remember? It's only 8 years ago now. She used to do a big night once a year with the awards and a big dinner and invite everyone's friends, which is great. It's been a lot of work and a lot of money. And I think that's great if someone wants, again, like talk about little projects, if someone wants to do something. But I don't think there's anyone who really wants to run a huge dinner. So Angela was also keen to sort of bring the honour of Mumbles back, and we talked about maybe doing it cheaper and doing it at Mumbles Fest, just on the stage. You do it early, lots of people turn up earlier as well to see their friends and family maybe. So that's the basic idea, is that it doesn't take any organising to do the actual event, it's just on stage. So the only organising itself would be in producing a relatively standard, something like that, not quite as grand as that, but something, but something similar to that, but maybe not quite as grand. So you can see I think, Ian, have you circulated it's on Teams. It is on Teams. But I'll read it out just in case people haven't had a chance to read it. So the background: several years ago, MCC used the award Honourable Mumbles to a deserving person. This is a proposal to bring back that award, but also to ensure its long-term survival, make it less costly than previously. So the suggestion is that each AGM, the award of the Freedom of Mumbles was the original idea, but that's too much hassle, so we'll just stick with the honour of Mumbles, because not many people got sheep to march up the height. Yeah, I'd buy one, yeah. So in this proposal, it's that people a year are awarded this. Now, in the committee, there was some discussion around that, and some people like the idea of just one person.
Particularly for this year. So soon.
So I personally still think it should be 2 people, but I'll open the floor afterwards to discussion on that. Although not to be set by a rule, I think there should always just be a target of 2 people, because you might have a situation where, I don't know, the lifeboat,
Don't say it.
Yeah, good point. So anyway, there's lots of deserving people that could win awards. So I don't think we should ever hard and fast have 2 people. That should be the aim. Criteria, again, there was some discussion. When I put this together, I put no one with a criminal record, but that some people have criminal records for, should we say, minor things that might have happened earlier in their lives that might not affect our decision anymore. So in the wording, number 1, the person must have a measurable impact on Mumbles. Number 2, be an appropriate person to receive the award from MCC. So that's the criteria there. And the sifting process. So only councillors could put someone forward. Now anyone can contact you as a member of the public and say, I think my cousin, dad, brother, or coach should get this award. But you can only nominate or second 1 person per year. So that stops us having a long list of 25, 30 people. So each councillor could either nominate or second 1 person per year. And the vote will take place at the AGM. And the only other thing I've written down here, £250 for each award. And that's it. Yeah, so that is basically the proposal. So the only things I suppose that people might want to discuss further, either the sifting or the criteria, or anything else they wish to.
Budget for this already?
Yeah. That's been approved. It's just a case of us all getting our thinking caps on then as well, as to who it could be, to bring that to the next meeting where we can then vote on who it's going to be.
I like the idea of 2 people rather than 1.
Yeah, I'm giggling a bit because I remember a big to-do. I don't say too much, but it seemed like it was rather vexing, in fact. So I think we have to be careful who we put forward.
Thank God, yeah.
Jesus.
Now, so I'm going to put to the council that we suspend standing orders again to go over our 2-hour time limit. So all in favour?
I suppose it's either that we vote on that or if anyone wants to comment. Sorry.
Rebecca?
The vote will happen. Will there be opportunity for people who've nominated people to put the case forward, and will that happen in open or closed session?
Closed session is in the.
It is in there, is it? I couldn't see it.
Yeah, closed session, just because it might be.
You don't want that.
Is it going to be like someone who's had a significant impact on Mumbles, or what will they do?
So yeah, I mean, in here, the wording I've just used is have a measurable impact on Mumbles.
Right.
So that's pretty broad, and be an appropriate person to receive the award. So again, that's down to our determination, and you as a councillor to use your own judgment on who's best, really. So you could nominate anyone you like. You'd have to get a seconder from any one of the other 18 councillors.
No, we would discuss
information about the person.
Yeah.
But everyone's going to have somebody, so we have to be
So there's 6 people. So there's 6 people nominated, for example. Then I suppose we would try and aim for 2 of those to, or whatever amount. And it's not obviously for me to decide, but for however amount of people to be nominated and go forward, I suppose.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, can I just put it to the vote and then we accept the recommendation? All those in favour? There we go. Let's go.
So it's confirming that recommendation is for 1 person then.
2, yeah?
It was 1 person that we were recommending.
The resolution says 1.
Yeah, for this year, yeah.
Well, no, it's 2. It's 2 people. That was what we just voted on. There was no. In the recommendation. Right. So that recommendation is different to the attachment, which was only just circulated.
Okay, but we just voted on that recommendation, so should we just say 1 for this year?
No.
It's a majority one too. We just decided that's the committee one because it's like next month, you know.
So the recommendation that we just voted on is the
Yeah, for two. People can argue for one and there's another and it doesn't.
Yeah, I'm not sort of disagreeing on that, but just another thing, are we going to put this out on our socials as a, you know, just because it will have to go out soon, won't it, in order to get people to nominate somebody before the next meeting?
You'd have 100 nominations, you'd be sitting there for hours. Kerry, we've just, I think I know the answer, but we've just voted on, the recommendation was different to the attached documents.
The recommendation was what came from council.
recommendation on the agenda was for one, well, the document said for two.
Look, for coming from committee, it was one for this year.
Yeah, the recommendation from committee was for one.
Yeah, it was, yeah, but the document, well.
You were in the meeting, you know it was for one yourself, but you want to.
Yeah, I didn't change the recommendation because it wasn't.
Is there a mechanism where we can declare that null and void due to confusion?
That's what I'm asking Gary about. No,
there isn't.
Yeah, it's one then.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so if we move on to Austrian illuminations. To MCC to purchase and install a multicoloured lighting system at a cost of £500 in order to commemorate Baby Loss Awareness Days and other events throughout the year. Questions?
Anything at the end of the committee.
Okay, can I put it to vote? All those in favour?
Take it with Sketty. Yeah, go for it.
About lighting traders and social media.
Yeah, just quickly, this was something that when we agreed that we would do the Mumbles Day Madness, I think Claire also did spotlighting traders. So, for example, to have the freedom, something that she used to do before, but I think there was put a stop to it, to be able to, as and when, if a new business opens up in Mumbles, she can take a picture, put something online, or, you know, if some business comes to her and says, you know, basically have the freedom to spotlight a particular business in Mumbles as and when, every now and then. Can we agree on her being allowed to do that? Because I think there was a stop to it.
Yeah. Okay, any questions?
Must be the Mumbles area, not just Newton Road.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, so the recommendation is MCC to put a social media post up on all local traders to send this information. The existing ones too. All those in favour? Okay, that's passed. Right, so that's the end of the committee recommendations. So now we need to vote on exclusion of the press and public. All those in favour? Ian, can you stop recording?
Okay, almost working.
We've got Mandy Williams who will give us a presentation.
Hang on.
Sorry to make you wait so long, Mandy.
Yeah, can I just, sorry, Mandy, just before you start, can I just obviously make two apologies to Mandy. When she asked me, first of all, what time to come this evening, I told her 7:30. So apologies, Mandy, that you have been waiting an hour to come on and present what you are going to need, essentially half an hour to present. And the second apology to Mandy is that I realised this evening I hadn't actually attached the appraisal report into the folder for you all. So Mandy's going to go through her recommendations, and then obviously if there's any feedback on the appraisal form after tonight's session, feed that back to me and I'll get you the answers from Mandy, if that's okay.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Kerry. I'm just going to share my screen in a moment, but just to say, first of all, good to be with you all. Can you hear me okay?
That's the thing. Sorry, Mandy.
I'm getting quite a lot of feedback, so I can't hear myself. Okay.